Warren Buffett is one of the greatest investors in history, and a large part of Buffett's success has to do with avoiding investments that are outside of his expertise. And this explains why Buffett has avoided purchasing rental properties throughout his investing career. However, he hasn't avoided investing in real estate altogether. Today, we're going to take a look at why Buffett has made STOR Capital the only REIT in Berkshire Hathaway's investment portfolio. STOR Capital has a diversified portfolio. STOR's real estate portfolio consists of nearly 2,900 properties throughout the U.S. Overall, the company's top 10 tenants comprise only 18.4% of its annualized base rent. STOR Capital buys single-tenant properties from its clients and leases them back. The tenants agree to cover all of the costs associated with their properties for a weighted average lease term of 13.4 years, which is relatively long. The annual rent increases provide a steady and growing source of rent revenue that typically keeps up with inflation. Of course, that's being put to test with the current inflation rate. Regardless, STOR Capital has a large dividend that is currently about 5.53%. Moreover, STOR Capital appears to be at a modest valuation for its quality. Given the brief fundamentals, let's see if STOR Capital is positioned for future upside. Today we're going to look at only one chart, which is the monthly chart going back to 2015. And STOR Capital, the symbol is STOR. For disclosure purposes, I do not hold any shares of STOR Capital at this time. Now, from say 2015, and of course with the exception of the pandemic lows, the stock has moved up only moderately, but that's not too bad. It's got a cycle in between here, and of course this is the pandemic plunge with a decent recovery up to this point here. It topped out at that point there, which is say in the upper mid 30s, and has come on down here to the current price of $27.86. Now, it's under both the 20 and the 50 EMA, so that might provide a bit of incentive to purchase. But let's take a look at the oscillators. Moving on down here, we can see that volume is picking up with the downside move, but hopefully that's going to be over relatively soon. We'll see that here in the MAC. As you can see in the MAC, the fast line has gone below that zero line. The slow line in red is coming on down too. It doesn't quite look like there's any bottoming and basing yet, but I think the histogram will tell a slightly different story, at least for the last month here. And in that last month, we can see a little bit of a bottom and basing starting to occur, moving down here and here. So I would imagine that's going to take a month or two more to bottom and base. But looking at that MAC, it's not very low, only moderately below that zero line. So there still is some strength. Moving on down here into the price rate of change, you can see some sawtoothing happening, and that's the beginning of a bottoming and basing in my opinion. Still a separation between the fast line and the slow line, so there is a bit of say sideways trading or volatility we'll have to move through, but I don't think it's too significant. Here in the RSI, it's at a moderately weak 35.34, but the same thing here, a little bit of a fish hook, perhaps a beginning of a bottom and basing here, and it's actually not too far below that 50 line, so it doesn't look too negative. And here into stochastics, we see the fast line, the black line, moving over a little bit, curving right above that 20 level, so it's not in that oversold territory, which is fine. It did the same thing here at this point back in 2017. In the pandemic, it didn't even go down that low. It was here, but of course this was much worse. So down here at near that 20 level is not too bad, somewhat encouraging that this oscillator too is starting to show a little bit of bottoming and basing. The Williams has a nice bounce off of the bottom here, and it looks like it wants to move on out of that oversold territory. We'll have to watch that. If it decides to move in the Williams, that's going to be the first oscillator showing some improvement. The others will follow. Moving on up here to the price chart, one last look, and as you can see, it definitely has a very gradual upward move all the way back from, say, 2015. It's not significant, but it does have a decent dividend. And with the movement in this cycle, I think we're heading down toward the bottom of the cycle, and it will hopefully rebound here within the next month or two. So before you buy, always conduct your due diligence in the fundamentals. And for today, that's ChewDog Charts. Thank you.